Hey everyone, this is Chris and Sandy Bent with the Chris and Sandy Show. We get up close and personal with some amazing guests throughout the entertainment industry. And today, like I say on every episode, we got a great show for you. We got Damon Sharpe coming on. He's a great Grammy-winning, award-winning producer, songwriter, DJ, artist, you name it. In the music business, he's done it.
Yes.
So we're excited to kind of talk to him a little bit about his story, where he's been, where he's going, and where he sees the music industry as a whole going. So we're excited to have him here and just see where this goes. So Damon, welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome.
Hey, Chris and Sandy, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for being
definitely
here.
our pleasure. Now, I always like to start the show out the same way that I've been starting out for a while. And hopefully one day I won't have to start it out this way.
Yeah.
But how has COVID affected you? And what have you done to kind of maneuver through this crazy new maze?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very fortunate. You know, everyone around me has pretty much stayed healthy. I've had friends and family that have gotten it, but everybody's made it through. Thank God. We're very blessed in that way. But yeah, from a lifestyle standpoint, obviously it's changed a lot, and I miss the simple things. So I'm hoping that those come back soon. Just being able to go and see friends and family, and have a bite to eat somewhere, and just the simple things. But I have been able to, with work, with production and songwriting and doing collaborations, I've been able to do so much, via the internet, via Zoom, literally sending files back and forth. So it's enabled me to still be able to do what I do. Is it my preference? Not really, but I've made it work, and
you do what you got to do.
Yeah, and I think in some ways it's for the good. It's allowed me to have a lot more quality time with my family. It's forced me to have more balance in my life, which is good because I tend to be a workaholic. But it's and I think even like you said, moving forward, I might be able to do more work like this and not have to jump on a plane and fly all the way over to the other side of the world. I might be able to do some things like this and not have to be gone for 3 weeks at a time. With that said, there are some things that I feel like need to be done in person.
Yeah.
There's definitely a magic that happens when you're in the room with people collaborating that is not the same. It's not the same, when you're through a digital connection. I'm not saying you can't connect with people that way, but you have latency, and you're trying to. One person's on a guitar, one person's singing, and it's delayed, and you're like, oh, this is crazy.
And I think this is going to be a plus too when everything goes back to whatever the new normal is down the road, because a lot of artists have learned how to do online concerts where you charge $5 and all that. So I think the future is going to be they're going to be at their shows with their live audience with the live streaming connected to where now the world who loves them can also participate.
Yep, correct. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I've done a lot of live streams in my DJing side, and it's fun. It's fun, like you said. If we can add that aspect to it, and hopefully sell hard tickets and have people who want the experience in person be there, and then also be able to broadcast it for people that can't, then that's a win-win.
Best of all worlds.
Yep, exactly.
That's like for us. When we launched this show, it was January 2020, a couple months before COVID. And I remember our plan was we thought we'd do 100 interviews our first year, and we thought that was a lot. We thought that was pushing it. But that was kind of the goal, the game plan, and then COVID happens. And I told Sandy, you know what? This is our silver lining. We're a new show. I bet there'll be artists that we could get on the show that normally wouldn't come on a brand new show because of COVID.
Right.
So we just went all out. And because of that, we've done over 300 interviews last year.
Wow, congratulations. No, that's awesome.
And of course, we've had people like, Randy Travis and Cassidy Pope, Sarah Evans.
Yeah.
Wow.
Legendary actor Ed Asner. So really, COVID has exploded our show. And sometimes I feel guilty when I talk about that side of it. But, it's one of them things where when things happen, we can't change it, but we can change our perspective to it.
Yeah, and you can make the best of it, and you shouldn't feel guilty for that. You know what I mean? For making the best of a situation,
So for us, it's kind of, and like you, we've got a lot of friends that's had COVID, but so far, I don't think we've had any close friends that's died from it. We've had some come close to. We've had some come really close,
but they did recover.
Good, awesome.
So when you look back on your career, you know, a lot of hosts would ask, you know, when did you know you wanted to be part of the music industry? And I like to go deeper than it always. When did it kind of click that this could be a career move for you?
Oh, wow. You know, I always likened myself to kind of being a jack of all trades, master of none for a while, because I was acting, I was singing, I was dancing, I was writing
Wow.
music. I was just kind of all over the map. And I don't think until little later in my career, which would probably be like, I have different chapters in my career, but I would say almost like probably chapter 3 of my career is when I actually got into production and writing and had my first cuts was when I realized, wow, I can actually, you know, I can actually pay my bills and do what I love. You know, I did it previously when I was an actor and things like that. I mean, when I was very young, I was a teen idol, and I had my own TV show on NBC that was on after Saved by the Bell, and
And it still didn't click.
it didn't click at that point because, well, that was a fleeting situation where we went from, you know, we had a TV show on television right after Saved by the Bell. We had board games, a doll. You know, we were doing concerts, signings with thousands of people coming, and then fast forward a year and a half later, it was all taken away. The show got canceled. The record deal got repealed. And I always tell people I went from taking pictures with Will Smith as a peer to 2 years later serving him a Pepsi as a waiter. So it was a massive life lesson for me. But thank God I went through that at a young age. And then when I went into my second chapter, you know, I got signed yet again. I met my mentor. And this is after a couple of years of like real dark times. You know what I mean? Like, because you're 16, 17 years old, you become whatever that is called, famous or whatever you want to call that, you know, and then it's all taken away.
Now it's TikTok.
You're young. You're like, wow. Yeah. You're like, what do you do? You know, what do you do? And I went through some really dark times. And then I was fortunate enough to have a second chapter. And I got signed to another label deal. I met my mentor at the time named Rick Wake. And I went through 3 years of multiple labels in another boy band. But that 3 years taught me so much. I was able to learn much more about production, much more about songwriting. And then at the end of that 3 years, that all went away as well. They presented the last deal, which was with Warner Brothers Record. And it was 25 grand advance each, which at the time was a lot of money for me. And I was like, wow, I just don't know if this is the right situation for me. And I didn't move forward. And I, again, was broke again, back on unemployment. You know, what do I do here with my life? And then I was fortunate enough, my mentor at the time called me out of the blue about a month later. And he goes, Damon, he goes, I found this CD on my desk of some songs that you wrote. He's like, these are some really good songs. You know, what do you think about coming and working with me as a songwriter and a producer? And I was like,
oh, wow.
I don't know, Rick. I don't know. I said, I was with you for 3 years. Things didn't really work. He goes, well, yeah, but you were with me as an artist. He's like, when you're with me as a writer, it's a different situation.
Oh,
so
wow.
he's like, I'll tell you what. He's like, let me pitch these songs around and I'll get back to you. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm never going to hear back. Hang up the phone thinking I'm never going to hear back from him. And as fate would have it, he calls me about a month or two later and says, Damon, guess what? I got some of your songs placed. And I'm like, wow. And I didn't understand. This all has a point to it. This goes back to what you said when I realized that I could do this as a living, right? Yeah. And he goes, I got your songs placed. He goes, do you know who Anastasia is? And I said, I don't. He goes, well, she's starting to blow up overseas. She's a really great singer and she's blowing up. She's on Sony. She's blowing up. She wants to do your song. She wants to do your song, Love Don't Cost a Thing. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And he goes, do you know who Jennifer Lopez is? And I'm like, at the time, she hadn't fully blown up yet. She had like Let's Get Loud, If You Had My Love, but she wasn't J-Lo yet, right?
Yeah,
she was bubbling.
She was Jennifer, just not J-Lo.
Exactly. So then, then he's like, yeah, they want to cut your song. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm not quite really understanding what that meant at the time. And he goes, all right, I'm going to call you back. Let me run with this. I'll get back to you. I hang up, thinking again, I'll probably never hear from him again. So as fate would have it, I don't get a call from Rick, but I get a call from one of my very good friends who was interning at a label. And she goes, Damon, did you do a song for Jennifer Lopez? And I'm like, I think so. And she goes, well, she goes, go to a newsstand right now, pick up R&R magazine, which was called Radio and Records and no longer exists, but it was a magazine that you could see what stations played the record. And on the back was a picture, the iconic picture of J-Lo. It said, Love Don't Cost a Thing, written by Damon Sharpe, all my co-writers' names. And I'm like, what is happening? So I called Rick and he's like, yeah, bro, I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to jinx it. But, the song went from being an Anastasia song to Jennifer cutting it. Anastasia took the other song. And then Jennifer went from not wanting the song to it making the record to becoming the single in a matter of like 2 weeks. Wow. And then after that, my life completely changed. I was able to quit my day job. And then I haven't looked back. That was almost 20 years ago now. And I have not looked back. And I've been fortunate enough to work with everybody from, Jennifer to Ariana to Pitbull to John Legend to Celine. And
Wow.
it's been a crazy, amazing ride. And I'm just thankful to do what I love,
Now let's flip the script a little bit. A lot of people, they see the
please.
glory of like you, of Jennifer Lopez, of Blake Shelton, Carrie Underwood, but they don't see the grind, the sacrifice, the tears, the struggles that it takes, not just to get to the high levels, but even a career level within the music world. And I always want to talk about it. And I always like to talk about a quick story to help me lead where I want this to go. But back in 2014, we interviewed Allison Steele from Two Still Girls. And at that time, they were full-time. Hey, Kaylee, full-time with music. And I remember asking Allison what advice she'd given up-and-coming artists. I'll never forget what she said. She said, this will sound funny coming from someone full-time, but if you can see yourself doing something else, go do that and just keep this as a hobby. She goes, because the moment you want it to be a career, your life has to change. You no longer own it. Everybody around you owns a piece of it. Your friends and relatives never understand because they invite you to weddings, to cookouts, to weekends, to holidays. But when you're in that beginning mode, that grind mode, you got to say no to anything that's not music related. And you got to say yes to anything that is music related. You have no choice because you're in that, because everybody's doing the same thing as you are. So you've got to be the yes people. Then on top of that, your family has to sacrifice. They have to kind of kick you out the door and say, okay, I am willing to share you with the world. I may not like it, but I'm willing to share you and be happy about it, happy for you. But then she added, but if you cannot see yourself doing anything else, then go all in. Because the only way that those kind of sacrifices could ever be worth it. What do you think of what she said? Let's talk about that side of it.
I mean, it's twofold for me. I have a very similar mentality and take on that, right? So I always tell new people, I'm like, first of all, but mine might be a polar opposite in a way, because I always tell people, don't quit your day job until you know you absolutely can. Because otherwise you're going to be spending so much time.
And I think that's what, and I don't think she was saying to quit your job. She was saying that you still got to be all in mentally, physically.
Of course.
If you're not at your job, it's got to be all music from that point.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly. Absolutely. I mean, for me, like I said, I didn't quit until I knew that I could financially at least take a shot. Now, granted, the times I did fall on my face a few times, you know what I mean? And that's going to happen. But if you truly, as she said, if this is something you truly love and you want to pursue, you have to go all in. Like for me, there was no B plan. Even though I went back to school, it was for music, because I was like, hey, if it doesn't work for me as a producer and a songwriter, as an artist, maybe I'll be an A&R person. Maybe I'll be a manager. Maybe I'll work in the legal department. Who knows? You know what I mean? I still knew that I was always going to do something based in the entertainment industry. And for me, like you said, going all in at times was, like at one point I was so broke. I was just interning at a studio. I was cleaning toilets. I was delivering food for them. I was doing anything I could. But it was still music related, right?
We get you.
Yeah.
Because, like for this show, we're chasing the same dream that a lot of these rising people are, just different platforms. And right now, the show don't make money.
We have a side job.
We deliver food for people, which the pandemic kind of helped us there.
That's true. Yep. That's been very busy these days.
So we get what you're talking about here.
We get it.
I did it multiple times in my life. And now I'm, like I said, now I'm just blessed that the past 20 years I've been able to sustain and do what I love. And obviously it's not always the top of the roller coaster. Sometimes it goes like this. And I don't care if you're Pharrell, Timberland, the biggest artist on the planet, it's still a roller coaster. It really is. That's what people don't realize. I think the average person thinks, oh, so-and-so, they're a multimillionaire and it's always, flowers, and it's not, and sometimes I've actually witnessed with people that have had the most success, sometimes are in the darkest places. It's really interesting. Wow. It's very interesting.
I think that's why Allison was saying you got to be all in, because again, it's one of them things where it's such a roller coaster. It takes a toll on your body, takes a toll on you mentally, physically, spiritually, everything, that if you're not all in, then those sacrifices you have to make end up being all in void, because you're not going to make it anyway.
Right. Yep. No, absolutely.
So tell us what you've done, some sacrifices that you've kind of went through to where, I know you talked about the ups and downs, but what are some sacrifices to where, other people got to do stuff, but you didn't?
I mean, it's numerous times. I mean, a lot of it was, and I'll never forget, one of my best friends, Patrick Yancey, he has a saying, I don't know where he got it from, but it's an amazing saying. He said, what's on their plate, let them have it, because there's going to be a time when they're going to want what's on yours. Wow. And I never really understood it until I started going through those situations. And this is going to be a cheesy story, but I got to tell you anyway. This resonates with me so bad. I remember being, I don't even remember what summer this was. This is summers before I was full-time in music. And I was so broke that I was dressing up as costume characters. So I would have to go dressed up as Big Bird and dressed up as Barney. And I remember walking down the street with the Big Bird thing in my arms, right? And it was like 100-something degrees out, and I was sweating, and I was like, oh my God, like what am I doing? And then but something in my mind was like, you know what? I have to do this because I want to do my music. Yeah, I could go get a 9-to-5 and be in a cubicle, but I wouldn't be happy. So I'd rather be out here in 100-degree weather, getting punched by 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds going, you're not the real Big Bird. You know, because I knew that it was a means to an end, right? Yeah. And then I remember at the time, my best friends were signed to a record deal, and I got in the car and I heard their song, and I was like, wow. And I was like, saw them doing things, and I'm like, wow, they worked hard like I did, and they're seeing the fruits of their labors. And I couldn't. It made you a little envious, but I was also like, I was more happy for them than anything. Yeah. And when I got that little bit of envy in me, I was like, you know what? I'm so happy for them, and I want that, and I will have that. I just have to work my ass off. And like I said, I mean, it just on a much more trivial level, just sacrifices of, you know, like I said, when I was waiting tables, I didn't get to eat until I went to work, you know, because I didn't have the money. I was trying to make ends meet so much, you know. It was like, so a lot of it was, you know, and like I said, also just not if there were things like my friends wanted to go out and have a great time, you know, and I'm like a teenager in my early 20s, like I want to go, and I can't, because I'm like, I can't afford to do it. I just need to stay home and focus and, you know, try to be responsible. And, you know, now I just try to make up for things now. You know, now if I missed out on certain experiences, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go try and do this, and I'm going to, you know, enjoy life. I mean, there were so many times that I traveled early in my career, and because I had won and lost so many times before that, I would be afraid to actually enjoy it. I'd be in Denmark or Sweden or London. And I remember my one of my best friends, Lindy Robbins, she'd be like, Damon, let's go check out Sweden. Let's go walk the streets. And I'm like, Lindy, I want to, but I need to keep writing. I need to work. Right. Oh, wow. And I didn't enjoy that for the first 4 or 5 years of my career. And then I don't know what clicked. I mean, maybe it was once I had my family and my wife. And you just realize,
I get it.
Sorry.
I get it. We got a family.
We understand.
You just realize.
But you got to enjoy.
You got to enjoy life. You got to have balance. And that's one of the things I realized most, you know, later in life. And I wish I would have realized it much sooner.
I mean, that's like, even though we work hard for this show, we live in Savannah, Georgia, and Jacksonville, Florida, and Charleston, South Carolina are both about 2 hours away.
Yes.
So once or twice a month, we take like day trips, us and the family, just to go down there and get away. In fact, we went yesterday to Jacksonville, Florida. Because that's a lot of people, they do bowling, they do that. We like to take day trips to get away.
Yep.
The hustle and bustle, and just enjoy each, like, you know, and what you were just talking about, it reminded me of a full, you know, we watched that show Full House back in the day. And our little one loves that show now, which is pretty cool. And you'll hear from him. You'll hear from him in a little while, because we always bring him on the show too.
We do.
Awesome.
But I remember a recent that they were showing an episode, and Jesse was trying to write a song. He got so mad he couldn't find the words, and they all had this trip planned.
Oh, right, like a family
and he
reunion.
refused, and he promised them that he would go and all that.
Yeah,
he refused to go, and because he said, I got work to do. I can't not write. I have to finish the song. And then he ends up. They leave. He ends up trying to finish it, couldn't. Then he goes to this bar, this Elvis impersonator, or real Elvis maybe in the show, so to speak. We're talking, and he says, it sounds like you got the problem, not them. And he says, you got to enjoy the journey and all, enjoy the life. You know, aren't you doing the songwriting for them?
Yep. Yeah.
And he said, and so he left, and of course he enjoyed the rest, and because he was enjoying it, he was able to finish the song
because he was able to relax and think about it and get it done then.
Yeah, and I think that it opens up Pandora's box for me for a lot of conversations. But it's like, you know, you have to. I always tell people you have to refill your creative well, and if you're not out experiencing things, I didn't understand that early on. Thank God I understand that now, because how can you actually talk about something that's going to resonate with people if you're never experiencing things in life? You know, and again, like I said, same thing with balance. I thought that working 20 hours a day or whatever was gonna, you know, bear fruit. And what I realized is once I balanced my life and had whatever 6 to 8 hours of focused work, and then spend time with my family and my friends and enjoy experiences in life, like things just open, you know, and whatever your spiritual beliefs are, having those things in your life, it just opens up everything. And like I said, I really wish I would have learned that way earlier in life. And that's why I always try to tell people, make sure you have balance, make sure you enjoy life. I mean, what good does it do if you have $1 million in the bank and you don't enjoy your life? You're miserable. Like what
and like you said, it gives you something to write up again when you're out there enjoying life, the good and the bad part of life.
Experiencing
all your experiences gives you that much pureness into your songs.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's what
and
the
relatability,
because that's what the public wants. They want the authentic Damon. They don't want the fake Damon who works all the time. And granted, you got to work because if you don't,
of course,
yeah. But they want the authentic Damon that comes out and does a song where they're like, oh, I can feel that.
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
So we talked about the sacrifice side a little bit. Let's go the other way now and talk about the glory side a little bit. The side that everybody sees. So when you look back on your career so far, and boy, do you got a resume. What are a few moments where you're like, wow, I got to do that?
Oh man, I mean, there's so many. I'm so blessed. Like gosh, I mean, it just goes on and on. Even like I said, the experience when I was a teenager to have my own television show and being able to tour at 17 years old, and you know, even though it was all stripped away, I'm thankful that I had that life lesson and that experience. And those are things that a lot of people will never get to experience. You know, even my second chapter when I was signed multiple times and getting to live in New York with my best friends and have a great time. And you know, then, like I said, once I had my chapter as a producer and a songwriter, and seeing every time I hear a song of mine on the radio, in my car, in a store, if I go and see them perform it, every time it's exciting. It never gets old. It's always an amazing feeling, and always very surreal, if that makes sense. Like sometimes I'll just I'm like, oh, what is this? I know this song. I'm like, oh, it's one of my songs, you know, and I get super excited. But
we get excited when we interview people who come on the radio.
Yes, then we hear them on the radio.
We interviewed them, and or on TV.
It's very surreal.
It's been real surreal. Some of the people we've had on our show, and again, we've worked very hard to get to here. Might not. Again, some people that don't understand us think, oh, it's not making money. It's really not a career, and they don't understand when you're in the podcast / show industry, you're building a brand. And eventually that brand will take off if you just don't quit.
100%. I mean, and it's so funny. Like I always talk about this, like not just sometimes I feel like I sound a little corny and cliche, but it's like I feel like work ethic is everything, right? Work ethic trumps trumps talent. It trumps so much. You can have $1 billion, but somebody can outwork you, right? But also, like I love the saying also of like with every no you get, you're that much closer to a yes. So it kind of ties back to the same thing. Yeah, you're building your library of shows, and then all of a sudden there's going to be one that is going to create that moment for you, and then you're going to have this whole library that people can look back on and go, oh my God, now I want to hear every episode of the Chris and Sandy Show. You know what I mean?
That our very first show that kind of took us to a new level was, I remember we were about 2 months in, the pandemic just really started. And I remember I was frustrated. I wanted bigger artists. And again, nothing wrong with small artists. We'll always do them. In fact, we can't do them justice unless we grow. So the more we grow, the more justice we can do for the smaller artists.
Right.
But I wanted some bigger people. I just got turned down from a person. Her team said no. And I thought we could get it because, you know, I'm friends with her dad and her sister. But I didn't realize once you're signed, family connections no longer matter.
Right,
That changes everything.
Right,
And so I was frustrated. I remember kind of pleading with God, am I supposed to do this? And I remember about an hour later, I get an email from a PR company saying, we've got 6 people I'd like to get on your show. And I'm scrolling through, and one of them was Anna Christina Cash. And I remember thinking, wonder if she's part of the Cash family. So I look her up. Come to find out, she's married to John Carter Cash. You know, Johnny Cash and June Carter, Cash's son.
Wow.
And so I was like, yeah, we'll take all 6. And then we got Anna on. And that was kind of the first beginning game changer, because once she came on, that brought on Carlene Carter, which then brought on Georgette Jones, which then brought on Taylor Lynn, which then brought on Jenny Gill, and eventually led to Callie Tucker. So all of a sudden, all these legacy kids and grandkids were coming on the show, all because of that one little interview. And then that then gave us clout for your Randy Travis's out there.
Of course. No, absolutely. That's great.
So it's been, so now we're still waiting for that next one. That was where, okay, now it's time to go to that next one. We know it's coming, and and we're excited to have you on, because we're like, when you said yes to our show, we were like, oh wow, this is cool.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm honored. Thank you.
And we also recently had a CEO, which was pretty cool. And
that's cool.
We had like the former CEO of Chipotle.
Oh, whoa.
So that if you go back and listen to that one, that was more of about a leadership thing. I mean, it was really awesome when it comes to leadership. If anybody wants to know anything about leadership, that's the one to go watch.
No, I'll definitely check it out. That's super cool.
So through your journey, you learn things through each thing. What are some of the things you've learned that you wish you knew at the beginning? I mean, you already said, of course, the balance. Outside of that.
Wow. For me, like, also realizing that I think when you initially get into, especially the music business, you think it's all about the song, right? And I think once I understood that there's a lot more to it than just the song, and that there's politics, and there's networking, and that you have to equally put into that what you put into your creative, or get somebody on your team who can do that, whether it's a manager, an agent, your attorney. But I do believe that every great artist and producer or songwriter, you have to kind of have some sort of a knowledge of that and acknowledge that. I think as creators, we have egos, and we tend to like want to bury our heads in the sand and go, it's just about the song, and they just don't hear the song. But then you realize, okay, well, that person's on a hot streak right now, so that's why they landed that single. Or this person is signed to this publishing company, and they're controlling part of the record, so they got theirs on there. So I think that's something I wish I would have understood earlier, because I probably would have worked harder from a political standpoint and a networking standpoint. Now I feel like I'm great at that. But initially I didn't understand that. The other one I will say, and I think this is also a generational thing. I think Gen Z and Gen Y are amazing at this, but I don't think I fully embraced self-promotion. And I think we live in a generation of that now, where it's kind of shameless self-promotion in a good way, where like a Gen Zer will be like, hey, yeah, I'm at Damon Sharpe, all platforms, go follow me, and whereas like
TikTok,
generationally, and I think generationally, I think Gen Z might be the first one to really embrace that. Because I think we're kind of brought up like, oh, don't brag on yourself, don't talk about your accolades, don't tell them where to, they'll find you if they're meant to find you. So I've really started to embrace that more, and I try to, new artists I'm working with, I'm always telling them, make sure you promote yourself. I don't care if you're just at Chipotle and talking to someone and someone strikes up a conversation with you, tell them, say, hey, I'm a musician. Oh, check me out on Spotify. You guys with your show. Oh yeah, we have this great show. It's called Christmas. I think you'll love it. Check it out. Don't be embarrassed to promote yourself. No, it's great. I envy
what's funny is I've had to convince her, like sometimes we're on her deliveries and all that, and she'll be in the restaurant.
Yes, I'm like
picking up the food, and she'll come back out and tell me, she goes, I just promoted our show.
Yes, I learned to start doing that now.
When we first married, she was really shy 18 years ago. So I've been trying to bring that out of her. And
yes, at networking events, he used to say my name for me. I wouldn't even stand up and
she would say, I'll stand up with you. And then I would say, we are Chris and Sandy Benton with whatever we were with at that time.
Yes. So we both come a long way.
And she's been the other side of me, where sometimes I get so excited that she helps me pull it back in a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if it was all up to me, we would just be all fired up
all the time.
So we kind of, she's my yin for my yang type thing.
Yeah, balance.
That's a great partnership. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's amazing.
But the great thing is she's a big dreamer, like, dude. I couldn't be, I'm not talking about the marriage like some people have where you got big dreams and then the spouse says, that ain't gonna work.
Right.
She's never been like that. She's like, but she's had great opinions where I'll have an idea and say, oh, well, how about tweaking it this way? Oh, I like that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's amazing.
So as you know, a lot of people, they see the artists, the producers, or not even really the producers. You're kind of one of them where the behind the scenes people they don't see. But on our show, I always want to make sure that the behind the scenes people get the recognition they deserve.
They're so important.
Because they don't get the love. So if you want to take a few moments just to tell us about the team that helps you be who you are.
Wow. I mean, it's so many people to thank. You know what I mean? I have so many people that I work with. I have amazing collaborators, co-producers, writers, and mix engineers, mastering engineers. My attorney, Ed Shapiro, does so much for me. My business manager, Mary Spirgovici, does so much for me. It's like they say, not to sound cheesy, but like it takes a village. You know what I mean? And I think everybody sees that and they don't really understand. And I'm also one of those people where it's like, I also kind of know my lane. So I'm like, I don't fool myself that I'm going to do everything. I'm like, all right, if I can play, the progression on the piano, but you know what? Maybe I can, after I get it all done, I might hand it off to a better piano player if there's like arpeggiated parts or things that aren't in my wheelhouse. Guitar, I might play some synth guitar, but then I'm going to hand it off to a real guitar player who's going to play the shit out of it, and make and get me excited, So yeah, I think there's just so many cogs. Obviously my PR people, they're amazing. It's like there's so many people that as you grow as a brand, there's so many amazing behind the scenes people. And it's so funny you touched on that because last night, just watching the Grammys, and a friend of mine tweeted something about, there's a best liners notes category, but there's no Songwriter of the Year award. And I was wow. So I immediately tweeted, I said, hey, at Recording Academy, we love that you have a Song of the Year category, but when are we getting a Songwriter of the Year category? Just to me, it's a little ridiculous. That
I would never guess that they didn't.
Wow. I
didn't
realize that.
So certain things didn't exist without the songwriters, right? And also, I don't know if you know this as well. I'm not that I want to peel back the veil too much on the Recording Academy. I don't want the but like there's really ridiculous qualifications for getting a statue. So, for example, you have to get, I believe you have to have written more than 33% of an album, even if it wins Album of the Year. Let's say you just wrote one song on there. You don't get a statue. You get a certificate, but you don't get a statue. And certain ones, like we won for the Chicago soundtrack back in 2003. And because I wasn't a 51% producer on there, I didn't get a statue. I get a certificate, which I'm grateful for. Don't get me wrong. I'm still a winner. But I don't have that statue. So they have these kind of stringent,
so that they can only give one.
Right, but like, is that really fair? Deciding who gets it, because you can't really. At the end of the day,
that would be my guess.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, certain ones, yeah. If you, what's that?
I'm listening.
No, but I just think it's just a little. I feel like people work so hard, like you said, especially behind the scenes as well, and to not be able to, if you work your whole career for something, and then they're like, well, guess what? You only produced one song on there. Sorry, you don't get the statue. You get a certificate.
Wow.
So it's kind of like, I wish they could level the playing ground. There's not that many categories, or make it an option where you could buy a statue if they don't want to have to, give the statue. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, at least say, okay, we're not going to give them to everybody because these are expensive to make, and we want to keep it exclusive. But yeah, you did 2 songs on this album. You deserve to have the statue. Maybe your song was the pillar song that blew it up, but you still don't get it. If you don't meet that criteria. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I believe Harvey Mason, who's a friend of mine, and Evan Bargart, they just launched a I think it's called the Songwriters and Composers Division of the Recording Academy. So they just announced that last night. So that's a step in the right direction. So I'm sure the Songwriter of the Year thing will come soon.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of teams, we have a third co-host ourselves, our 9-year-old.
Oh, nice.
And we bring on. So Sandy's going to go get him.
I'll get him. His name's Christopher.
And we've got a
awesome.
2-year-old that when she gets older, we'll be plugging her into the show because we are a family affair.
There you go.
Got to, like you were saying earlier, family changes everything, and it did for us too. It's just one of those things where I don't want to be apart from my family, and not everybody can include their family into their work, but if you can, why not?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, 100%. No, I'm lucky. I mean, a lot of events they don't really allow, they won't have kids at, but hey.
Hi, Damon Sharpe. So, what's your favorite food?
He's already got good questions. It depends on the day. I think on my cheat days, I would say pizza, and on a regular day, probably sushi.
What's yours?
Mine is pizza.
Oh, so we had the exact same one. Nice.
Yeah, he could eat pizza all day long. If we fed it to him all day.
He asked how old you are.
All right, I'm 9 years old.
Okay, nice. Nice.
We're still preparing for the camera and all that. It's funny.
Oh, he was ready though. He came in with his first question. He was ready.
Right, next.
You got one more?
Yes. What's your favorite TV show?
Ooh, wow. That I kind of binge TV shows, so it changes a lot. I think what's the most recent one? I actually, you're too young to watch it, but there's a show called 30 Coins on HBO. That's really cool. Yeah, it's called 30 Coins. And then I just watched a really fun one with my daughter called Secrets of Sulphur Spring on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty cool one. You should check that one out. Yeah, they time travel back in time and there's a whole mystery behind it, and his dad is involved. So the kid in it is about your age, and he gets to go back and see his dad at his age. It's a cool show. You should check it out.
And what's yours?
Mine is SpongeBob.
Oh, there we go. That's always a good one. That's a classic.
And what's been pretty cool about this show is, he watches a lot of the Nickelodeon shows. So we've been able to bring quite a few people from Nickelodeon on here.
Oh, nice. Did you ever watch the show Big Time Rush?
Nope. But it's on Paramount Plus. I saw.
Yeah, that's a Nickelodeon show, and I worked on it for like 5 years. So check it out. I did so much of the music. Those guys are like my little brothers, and it's actually coming on Netflix, I think, at the end of the month. So you can watch. They did like 4 or 5 seasons of that show. You'll like that show. It's a fun show. Yeah, it's a fun show.
Bye, thanks.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Yeah, he definitely loves that part, and like I said, we don't know what the show could be one day connections for our kids. We don't know.
Could be.
100%. Absolutely.
We're just building hard now, and just because we never imagined it getting here this quick.
No.
But we also never imagined COVID happening. So.
Yeah, right. Seriously, none of us did.
Yeah, we never saw that one coming. All right. So what are some new trends that you see developing in the music industry?
Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, I guess I don't necessarily see it developing. It's just my prediction. I feel like once COVID is kind of starting to come to an end, I think we're going to see a lot more positive and happy music because people are going to want the escape, right? Right now it's a little dark with a lot of like really trappy hip hop and kind of dark, depressing kind of music. And I think I'm excited for this next chapter when things open up and people are just going to want to go out and have a great time. I always tell people I think it's going to be like the Roaring 20s again. It's like people are going to want to be out and get dressed up and go have a bite to eat and go dance or watch a show or just something simple like going to a movie theater. Like I think all those things are going to become an event, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I said the exact same thing because, when you look at the pandemic of 1918, you had that 2 years, and then, like you said, the Roaring 20s. I was like, I've got a friend of mine from Nashville, and he's a PR company for several banks, and he said that the bank people have told him that there's a lot of money that's not being spent in bank accounts.
Oh, wow.
Because people are not been able to do all that.
Been able to spend it, right.
So I think that when we start opening up, which is really, we finally see the light at the end of the tunnel, is I think that all that money is going to flood into the market. And all of a sudden, like you said, we're going to have that roaring for however long because people are itching for this.
Oh, yeah. People have been cooped up. They're ready for those events to start happening again.
No, absolutely.
Yes, and what would you like your legacy to be? What would you ultimately like to be known for?
Wow. I mean, I think I'm thankful that I'm already kind of trying to leave as much of a footprint as I can. You know what I mean? Like I said, even musically, it's amazing to me to. I mean, I have hundreds of copyrights now under my belt and songs that have been released, and I've had so many people like DM me and say, "Wow, this song changed my life. This song, helped me." And for me, that's my legacy. And then in addition to obviously the obvious with my daughter.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Mhm.
So, and I don't know if you do a lot of co-writing, but if you do, what would be your ideal co-write? If you could co-write with any person, dead or alive,
Oh, wow.
who would it be, and what would you
Wow.
want to write about?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, probably like you said, dead or alive, I probably would have been Prince, to be honest with you. I
Oh,
was always
that's
I was a massive Prince fan, and he didn't do many co-writes, so that's probably why I like the mystery of it. Like I would love to be able to crack the code and get in the studio with him and pick his brain. He would probably be my go-to.
Wow.
Yeah, but there's a lot, or John Lennon. I know that might be an obvious one, but like, you look at the
yeah.
incredible songs he wrote, and I would love to have been in a session with John and Paul to kind of see the dynamic.
That
I
would
know
be cool.
I know there was always a bit of an ego thing, and they never really disclosed like who did what. But I would love to see what the actual mechanics were in those sessions. You know what I mean? Because we always think just because we see someone's name on a credit, we don't necessarily know what they contributed to that song. So for me, as a writer, it's always
one word, and you're on that song.
100%. Or like I said, going back to politics, maybe they didn't write anything, but they are the manager or friends of someone or whatever, and all of a sudden their name is on the song. So that always fascinates me to see when I go in with like name songwriters and people like that, to see what the contribution actually is, because it's very different every time in the process.
Because we've learned a lot within the music industry since we've been doing all of this. Something I didn't know, and this ain't a put down for labels are great. They do what they need to do, but there's some labels that can cross the line, as you know. And I remember hearing several stories where people would tell on our show, and I didn't even know that this was a thing. Several artists would said that some labels, when let's say that they put millions of dollars into this artist, and you're and you got the same sound, you're kind of targeting the same audience. That some of them will come to you to sign you. Now you're all excited. I'm about to be signed to this deal. You don't read the fine print, and all of a sudden you sign, and they bench you for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, the term that I've always heard likened to that is being shelved. So basically, like you said, they'll sign someone similar just so they know that it won't be competition in the market, which is.
And I just learned that. I didn't know that was a thing.
Did not know about that.
I know that music can be ruthless. I get that. But that and all of a sudden, because you didn't have an attorney, you don't realize. Yeah, they might have paid you a spiff up front, and you're like, "Oh, this is great." Then all of a sudden, you can't do the one thing that you love for 3 years.
Oh, and I've seen it happen to many, 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 many artists get shelved for maybe even longer than that, for years. And sometimes it's not just because they're trying to eliminate competition. Sometimes the A&R and label president that signed you are excited about you, and then they leave, and then you're kind of you become a stepchild in the system. And then they still don't want to let you go, though, because they're afraid if you go and sign someplace else and blow up, then they have egg on their face. So I mean, it's happened so many times. I mean, to look at it with, like, I don't know if you know the story of Lady Gaga, but she was signed to Island Def Jam, and then they dropped her, and then months later she went over and obviously historically blew up. Alicia Keys was also, I believe, signed to Columbia. Then she got dropped, went over to J Records. I mean, I could go on and on and on. There's so many stories of that. So they're afraid of that happening. So for their egos, unfortunately, they'll just keep people locked in. And
you know what's funny? We had a guy on. I can't remember the guy's name, but he worked for Sony for many years, and he talked about that when he worked there was a couple artists, and because I was asking him what are some mistakes that he made in the past that he regrets. And it was because he was trying to let people know, don't always listen to his ex. But he said there's 2 artists that he said would never make it, so he didn't sign them.
He personally said this. Okay, yeah.
And it was Kenny Chesney and Jason Aldean.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So he said he let them go. He said that was the biggest. He said I didn't see it. He said I just didn't see it.
Again, kind of like in his defense, though, I don't think everybody is the right fit for everyone. if that makes
That's
sense.
true.
So
It
it's not that,
does.
and it might not even be that he didn't think they were talented. It's like he said,
Yeah.
he just didn't see it. So he
Yeah.
probably had he signed them, they probably
They
would
wouldn't.
not be where they're at today.
That's
Because
true.
he didn't quite get the vision and he wasn't passionate about
Mhm.
them. So yeah, it's
that's one
interesting.
thing that I always tell artists: whoever you get, they need to have that same passion for your future and see it the same way you do it.
100%.
If they're trying to change you, go find somebody that likes you the way you are, that got the same passion as you. That's where you want to be, because again, you can only blossom when you're authentic.
Yep, 100%, 100%.
But yeah, it was really cool that he admitted that on our show.
Oh yes, he was
Yeah.
very open.
He's very open, and he says, yeah, he says to this day I still cringe when I see them. Kind of joke, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, what's a moment where you can look back and something like that? It don't have to be that extreme,
man.
but something where you look back and you're like, I wish.
If I could
Yeah,
go back
I've had a lot of those, to be honest with you. Probably the most recent one was 5 or 6 years ago. And they approached me. They're like, "Oh, one of the Jonas Brothers is thinking about doing a solo record, and we really love for you to write some stuff for it." And I was like, I don't know. I think the Jonas Brothers are done. And then,
wow!
And then about 6 months later, I'm in my car and I hear this great song and I Shazam it, and I'm like, Nick Jonas. Oh no! I just didn't see the vision.
Wow.
And like you said, I might have went in there and written with him and probably wouldn't have come up with Jealous. So it happened. I mean, probably the earliest, most hilarious one that I regret the most. But this is also because I didn't really understand the business at this point.
Yeah.
When I was in my early boy band, one of my good friends was one of the guys I was in a group with was best friends with JC Chazé from NSYNC.
Oh yeah.
And I remember he called me one day and he's like, dude, he's like, I'm working on this song with JC, and I think it's gonna be really cool, and I think maybe they'll use it. And like I said, again, I didn't know. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm busy. I'm hanging out with my girlfriend or something stupid, right? And he's like, you sure? It's gonna be really cool. And I'm like, no, I think I'm good. Then about another 2 weeks go by. He calls me again. I get a second chance. This is like God giving me a second chance.
Oh wow.
He's like, dude, the song is really cool. Let me tell you more about it. I really think it's gonna work. So again, I politely passed. That song ended up on the No Strings Attached record, which ended up going like diamond. It was like sold like 20 million copies. Wow. And it's like, so I look back, but like I said, in my defense, I didn't understand how that worked. And that was just me, ego of a young kid, like, not understanding. But yeah, that's one of those ones I'm like, oh my God, what if I would have landed on there? That probably would have completely sparked my songwriting career earlier. But who knows? Again, who knows?
It could have changed everything for you, because we all lead our lives, our journey to where we like. You always see people on Facebook post, if you could change anything in your past, what it would be. And I always say I wouldn't, because my past made me the person I am today.
Right,
you take some of that away, and you might take her away.
Yep, 100%.
Again, I can't change anything, and I can only learn from it.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
And speaking of the getting it wrong, I remember what was it, a year or two ago that Luke Combs made that tweet, that most famous tweet, thanking all the execs that told him 6 songs would never do it for him.
Oh,
and all
wow.
6 went #1.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Because sometimes when execs do that, and I know that they're just giving their opinion, and we want that. You want their opinion.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's wrong, but sometimes that fires that artist up enough that so you know what, I'm going to do that, and sometimes it may be that one moment that makes that artist.
Yeah, and I've also learned over the years, the labels, God bless them, but they're kind of throwing it against the wall just like we are, trying to see what sticks most of the time. And I've learned that, especially in consulting for some amazing clients, and learning, working with clients that have the means and ability to actually spend similar money. You realize you're like, wow, it's a very similar process. It's just they're all going to the same vendors for radio promotion and marketing and social media, and they may just have more money to throw into it, and they're just seeing what sticks. You know what I mean? So it's
changes
pretty interesting.
Too much.
It's always evolving.
What works today won't work tomorrow.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, it's just the craziest thing when you watch things that go up on the chart, and then you see another one rising, and you're like, that's going #1, and then it don't, and you're like, okay, well, we're it's just one of them crazy things, and that's why, again, back to in the early of our conversation with the Allē still, that you have to be all in because it's such a roller coaster.
Yep. And you can't let it, you got to let it roll off you. It's really tough. And that, again, that's what I always tell like new people that are starting. I'm like, you better love this. You better absolutely love it, especially if you're an artist, because then there's all the other things that come along with being an artist, which is, especially now with the advent of social media and TMZ, like you're not going to have any, you're not going to get private time. You know what I mean? Like if you go out to a restaurant, somebody's going to want to ask for a photo. Somebody's going to want, you know, an autograph, and you have to sign that. You have to take that photo, and you can't have an attitude. You can't have an off day, unfortunately. And if you're going to, then book a private room in the back, or just stay home and have a nice dinner. You know what I mean? I understand it seems unfair that people shouldn't be able to go out and live their lives, but it's just the trade-off. If you want a certain amount of success, there's also some negative things that with every blessing, sometimes there's curses that come along with it. And, you know, that's why I'm always like, and I don't want to hear it. I'm always telling them, I'm like, if I see you 5 years from now, and you're a successful, you know, I better not hear things about you saying, I don't want to sign an autograph, and I don't want to take a, I'm so tired of taking pictures.
You wanted to be there.
If that's the case, then just be happy, like doing local theater or go play in a coffee shop if you just love music. But if you want to be in the business of music, that's a whole nother animal, right? Being in the business of music, you know.
Yeah, because sometimes people forget that, you know, you see a lot of people complain on social media, and not just in the music world, but in any world. And it doesn't matter what profession you're in, you see complaints. And sometimes I don't comment because I don't create drama, but sometimes I want to ask, did you not pray for this? You're in a moment to where there's other people wish they were you.
Yeah.
And you're complaining about being you.
Yeah.
You prayed for this. You worked for this. You've done everything for this. And now you're going to complain that now you're here. Now you hate it.
Yeah, I think it's easy to go down the rabbit hole. You know what I mean? That's why I said those dark voices come in, and I don't think people understand, even when you reach a certain major level of success. Look at any of the most successful documentaries with Madonna, Lady Gaga, Bieber. I haven't seen the Billie Eilish one, but I can imagine it's probably in there too. You get to see the lonely side of success and things that happen. It's not all, like I said, it's not all gravy and gold all the time. You know, there's some dark things that they're going to deal with as well. And you have to know that going into it, you know, and like I said, that's why it's also important to surround yourself with a great team of family and friends around you and peers. To keep yourself grounded. And, you know, like one thing that I've tried to incorporate more in my life is waking up every morning. And even if I don't do it physically, mentally, I do go over a gratitude list in my life. Like, I don't think enough people think about that, you know, and that's why it's very easy to go down the road of going, well, this sucks and that sucks. But, you know, what about all the things that you're happy about? Yeah. And then all of a sudden you start to realize that the things that you're complaining about usually are trivial. They're not big. You know what I mean?
Yep. Exactly. So and, you know, I remember a few months ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, I tweet back and forth with Ty Bentley a lot, you know, when I got questions on it. And he's been gracious enough to kind of help guide me on some things.
No, awesome.
And I remember saying, I posted a long thing on Facebook, and I shared that on Twitter with him. And it was about how the struggles, this ups and downs. That some days I want to quit. Some days I'm ready to jump off the cliff. Some days this, some days that. And I remember tweeting him what I said. And he tweeted back, and he says, "You're in the same world as we all are in." He says, "We all go through that exact same struggle every day." And it helped me because I thought I was alone here. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm not supposed to do this show if I feel this way. But Ty Bentley said he feels that way at times. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I get it now. It's because, again, we're chasing the same dream, just like an artist. So we're trying to rise up. And sometimes you're pushing and it's like this brick wall. And you're like trying to pound it and pound it and pound it and nothing. And you're like, okay, is that brick? And then you see a small chip go through and you're like, oh, there's a chip.
Yeah.
And you're like, but again, it's sometimes you start that mental drain, like you were just saying. You start thinking, oh, but it's a little chip, but you forget that if you keep chipping away and chipping away, eventually that wall is going to break.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's why I think it's so important to. I've always tried to live my life from a glass half full as opposed to a glass half empty approach. Because like you said, one person might look at that wall and go, oh my God, it's a wall. I'm never going to get through here. But you might look at it and go, ooh, I see there's the opening. It's small, but I see it. If I keep hitting it, it's going to come down. So, you know, it's just, I think it's all just about, you know, how you perceive things and live your life.
And Susan said, great chat and so heartfelt. And she's right.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Susan.
So what's next for Damon?
Wow. So, I mean, I guess obviously I'm continuing to produce and write for other artists. I'm signed to Armada Music now out of Amsterdam. They're one of the biggest independent dance labels in the world. And I've got new music. I've got a single out right now called Lost Years with an amazing singer named Josh Cumbee. And the remixes come out on April 2nd. I've got some collaborations with Loud Luxury and Sid, some other big EDM artists. And I'll actually be on the cover of EDM World Magazine this month. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to doing some live shows once COVID allows that. You know, I've been offered some, but I don't want to, you know, China offered me some shows and I'm like, wow, I have to go quarantine for like 12 days and then do the shows and quarantine again. And I'm like, you know what, let's hold off until things, you know, get to a place where we can travel more comfortably. Yeah, but it's amazing. I just want to continue to create and, you know, hopefully give people music that will resonate with them and help their lives, you know?
So as we come to a close, let's say you had a friend of yours and you heard him or her sing and they have something special. As Simon Cowell would say, they have that it factor.
Yeah.
But they've played maybe 40 or 50 shows. So they're still getting their feet wet on the performance. And this would be pre-COVID advice, so keep that in mind.
Okay. Yeah.
But they've played 40 or 50 shows, but they've gotten on stage and I got what every artist says, that stage bug where they look over the crowd and the crowd's roaring for them. And they know they're in the right place. And they come to you and they say, Damon, I know I'm supposed to do this with the rest of my life. What advice would you give that specific person to kind of help guide them the next few years?
Well, it's interesting. I have very specific advice that I tell new artists when they come in to meet with me, right? First and foremost, I have a list of questions that I ask them. First of all, I say, okay, so who are your influences? I want to know who their influences are.
Yeah,
I'll say, who do you feel like your competition is? I want to know who they feel their competition is. And usually my answer, there's no wrong or right answer. My personal right answer is no one. I'm myself. I'm my artist. That's what I want to hear. But it takes a long time for an artist to realize that, right? Or I'll say, okay, when you're on stage, what do you envision? Is it you with dancers? Is it you with a band? You know, and if you pull up a playlist on Spotify, who are the other artists that are on the playlist with you? What's your imaging? I mean, it's like I said, I'm almost asking the same questions that a label would ask because I want that artist to be able to check every box. So when they walk in a label, there's no chink in their armor, right? Because a lot of times you walk in, I always tell people, labels especially are not looking, this is not a jaded comment, this is factual in my opinion. They're not looking for a reason to say yes, they're looking for a reason to say no, right? Because their job is to align every time they sign someone, right? So, and nowadays especially, they're not in the business of true A&R anymore. It's like they want you to come in with followers, they want you to come in with a fan base, butts in seats, they want you to come in with a game plan, your look.
Well, like social media created that.
Yeah, almost everything. You know, they want every box checked. So I guess my first meeting with them is really finding out how close they are to checking all those boxes. And then at that point, I have to see if I resonate with them, if it's something I actually want to get involved with. You know what I mean? And if I click with them, sometimes even if they're not ready, I'll want to get involved because I'm like, okay, I see the vision, I see their passion, and of where I think it can go.
Wow. Love that. So as we come to a close here, tell everybody how they can reach out to you.
Yes. So I am at Damon Sharpe, DamonSharpe, at pretty much all platforms. I think the only ones that are different might be, I think I'm official Damon Sharpe on Facebook, but you know, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, those are all at Damon Sharpe. And on Spotify, obviously, just punch in my name, Damon Sharpe, and it'll come up. Please go follow me there. I'm really proud. I have over 50 million streams on Spotify as an artist now, and close to a million monthly listeners right now. And that's only been my journey of like the last 2 years, really pursuing my artist project on the dance side. So I'm really, really happy and proud about that. And you know, yeah, please look me up and enjoy my music, and feel free to reach out to me.
Love that. You know, we really enjoyed having you on the show today. We look forward to having you back down the road.
Oh, thank you. I love being here.
Anybody that you're helping, send them our way. We'll get them on the show too.
We will.
Oh, I will. I have some amazing people I'm working with that I'll definitely send your way.
Sounds
great.
You have a great day.
Thank you.
All right.